Hello friends, it's Kat from Meow Kapow. Here we've got another M-Gram watercolor set. This one is the Jewel Tone collection. Last time I reviewed the Desert Southwest set, and where that one felt heavily balanced towards yellows, this one has a decently even range. The 5 15ml colors included are Perylene Maroon, Permanent Green Light, Anthraquinone Blue, Cobalt Violet, and Hansa Yellow. The more and more I work with these pre-made sets, the more and more I realize that my entire life depends on a cool red being available, and all of these kits never seem to want to give me one? Is it just me? Has anyone else come to the realization that they are super in love with a certain color and it's pretty much the single element that makes any palette work for you? Ah well. By now, it's pretty common knowledge that I love to make mini palettes, and of course, the Jewel Tone set will be no exception. If you'd like to get a more in-depth look at how I make some of these palettes, I've actually got a whole playlist of palette builds waiting for you in the iCards. The gist of it is, though, that I label each pan with some masking tape that has the brand name and color written on it, attach magnets to the bottom of the half pan so they stay secure in my mini Altoids tin, fill them up with fresh paint from a tube, and let the paint dry overnight so it's easy to work with. An optional step is that I often decorate with washi tape and stickers or make little pockets to hold extra supplies or color charts or other silly little things like that, but for this bad boy, we're going au natural and just sticking with the plain mini Altoids tin. Don't worry, I've still linked the important supplies down on the doobly-doo, like usual. That's also where you can find links for my Instagram, Skillshare, and the video I did last week where I'm collecting questions for my upcoming celebratory Q&A. Making this color chart, I knew I'd be really happy with the range of colors. You essentially have a primary triad with the maroon, yellow, and blue, but then there's also some great variety by throwing in the green and purple. That cobalt purple is super gorgeous, though you may have noticed by now that I'm sort of a sucker for certain purples. One thing I really liked about this set over the last one I reviewed is that it doesn't really seem like there are any heavily opaque colors, which can be super useful if you plan to use thin washes and multiple layers. Before we get into how these paints actually perform, I want to tell you a little bit about what inspired this piece. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go lately and was heading off towards a popular Pokewalking spot. To get there, I had to drive through a shopping center that includes both a hardware store and a grocery store, so it's usually pretty well populated with people going about their business. Just as I was about to get out of the shopping center, I kid you not, Luigi from Mario Brothers walked straight in front of my car. I was just totally delighted. This dude probably had no idea that he was low-key cosplaying Luigi in real life, but when you've got a big bushy mustache, a green hat, shirt, and flip-flops, and blue jean shorts that had clearly been ripped apart by hand from an old pair of jean pants, who else could he be? And because he was coming out of the hardware store, it's entirely possible that he was factually a plumber. Or a rescuer of princesses? Dude was storming along with absolute purpose, so I could totally see this being a spiky turtle in a castle sort of mission he was about to go on. I could practically see the Mushroom Kingdom he was stomping through. Anyway, I loved seeing this dude in real life and knew I had to paint him. Luckily, this Jewel Tone set has essentially all the colors I would need in order to make a dude wearing green and blue, so, you know, this was pretty much destiny. I'm using a slice of B watercolor paper on these, and I'm not sure if it's the paper or the paint, but the colors seem a bit duller than I expected them to. Part of the problem is absolutely the fact that I'm still pretty rubbish at controlling the intensity of the pigment load from M-Gram. Or it could be that I've been working with Sennelier so much that I'm just used to a continuous inner glow about my paintings. Or maybe it's that I've been working too much with thread and embroidery and stamps lately and have lost my touch for giving even simple pieces depth. Whatever it is, I feel like I didn't showcase this color set as well as it deserves. The colors are all super beautiful, and if you can control their pigmentation, then you can get a huge range in intensity. I did notice that a lot of the colors, like the Perylene Maroon, are pretty darn staining, and if you're not quick to remove them or soften their edges while still wet, you'll end up with slightly more concentrated color deposits than you'd bargained for, and that's just how life's gonna be. The color that I ended up being able to control best and make softest was actually the Anthraquinone Blue, which was actually probably the most intense color on its own. It's possible that knowing it had the deepest mass tone helped me to be extra delicate with it, but it's also possible that it's just a super baller color. I use Daniel Smith's Indian Throne Blue a lot, which is made from the same pigment, so it was really nice having such a familiar color to work with. It also made some really nice gray tones when mixed with the Perylene Maroon, and I used them together a lot for some of the shadows in the skin, especially in those deep-set eye sockets of real-life Luigi. The Cobalt Violet was really good for mixing with other colors to tone them down, but I wish I'd had a chance to really let it shine on its own in this piece, since the cool sort of pinky purple is totally my jam. I also wanted to say that I noticed that the Cobalt Violet is a Series 5 color, and all the rest in this set are either Series 2 or Series 3. The way that watercolors are priced is that Series 1 paints are usually the least expensive, and Series 5 are usually the most expensive. The fact that all of the colors in here are of mostly more expensive pigments is actually really cool, especially because the tubes are so large, and this set costs about $35 US on Amazon. For comparison's sake, that single tube of Cobalt Violet costs about $15 on its own. Which is part of why I love getting these awesome color sets, because the bang for your buck value is pretty much always just incredible. This color set in particular is really cohesive, and I feel like it has a huge range, even bigger than the Desert Southwest set I reviewed before, so it's actually a pretty approachable collection. I'd personally also add a cool red like Quinacridone Rose, but we've already established that I clearly have some sort of obsession with cool reds because this is like the 4th palette where I've craved one. Interestingly though, I wasn't hurting from its absence as much as I was for the Sennelier test kit. So this M. Graham Jewel Tone set is a solid recommend in my book. I think it's a great introduction to M. Graham as a brand in general, since I didn't find any one color to be disagreeable, though I do still personally continue to struggle to effortlessly control the strength of their pigments. Like, seriously, if you've never tried M. Graham before, you just aren't ready for the bang that the pigment punch has. Am I the only one that ends up using a heavier hand with these than expected? I can't be, right? I've got 3 more M. Graham sets to test out as well, 4 if you count the gouache I've got. I'll put a poll in the iCard to help decide which one to explore next, but I'd love to hear about your thoughts on this paint, and if one of those sets in the poll interests you, let me know why. Until I see you next time, I wish you peace, love, and Princess Peach.